All right, before we head out of here, want to talk a little bit of rookie minicamp. That's happening Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We'll get our first look at everybody that the Pittsburgh Steelers have brought in for the 2024 summer. A bunch of rookie minicamp tryouts. You know, we talked about Williams. There's a bunch of other names out there that are kind of very exciting. And then there's some undrafted guys that I think are kind of stealing the show. The Steelers draft picks are super exciting. What we're going to see out of Roman Wilson is awesome. What we're going to see out of Peyton Wilson is awesome. Troy Fautano's probably going to be a freak right from the jump, and Zach Frazier in pads is probably going to get people excited. But there's some undrafted guys that I think have a bunch of upside with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and their track record of finding guys who are undrafted and making the most out of them holds as true as humanly possible. So every day from here until Friday, we're going to break down a little bit of Steelers rookie minicamp and what we expect going into there, kind of preview a little bit here and there for you guys so we could, you know, kind of touch on everything, give everybody an idea of what we're looking at. When it comes to the undrafted guys, because I think that's the best place to start. That's the most exciting. Hey, what's going to happen with these guys? We don't know. There are some big names out there. I mean, obviously, Beanie Bishop's the big one, but you have a bunch of other ones. You look at the UDFA class and everything that they've done and everybody they brought in. What's the guy, who's the name that you expect to make the 53-man roster?
Yeah, I think it's Georgia running back Dajuan Edwards. He is really interesting to me. I think, especially given what we know about Najee Harris and what we've talked about, you know, in terms of his relationship with the Steelers and clearly what they think of his value. I still see Najee as a trade candidate, quite honestly. Like, I wouldn't be shocked if they trade him this offseason, and that's where Edwards steps in and kind of could be, I don't know, a guy that steps up and gives you some valuable touches. This is a guy who has to be smart to play in Georgia's offense. He's experienced, and he's a tough runner. I feel like he fits into what the Steelers want to do. Scored a ton of touchdowns for Georgia over the course of his career. He was a guy who can really bully his way into the end zone. I like him a lot, and I think that he could end up, you know, it's a certain situation. You know, he's not going to take snaps over Jaylen Warren or even Cordell Patterson or especially not Najee Harris. But if a position opens up, I think the Steelers could look at this guy as a really valuable fail-safe. He's definitely someone that you'd want to try to, at the very least, hide in the practice squad, but I don't know if you're going to be able to keep him around as a practice squad guy. I think people are going to look at the tape. They're going to look at his pedigree coming from Georgia, and they're going to see him as really valuable. I don't think he'd last on the practice squad. I think he's a guy that you got to kind of try and lock down pretty early, quite honestly.
That's I mean, best shot to make the 53-man roster. I feel like that's a ballsy pick there. It's not a bad one, but a lot lying on it. What's your percentage you think Najee gets traded as of right now?
Oh, it's not high. I mean, only like, you know, I mean, before the end of rookie minicamp, obviously, or like
no. I'm just mean at any point this summer.
I'd probably put it at, I'd say 20%.
Okay.
Maybe like 18, but like, you know, I don't think it's likely, but I just think Edwards is a guy that, I don't know, a fourth running back isn't that big of a, you know, it's not someone that I mean, we saw them last year, like the guys that they brought in at running back last year to kind of fill some training camp spots to give them some bodies there. Like they were cycling through a ton of guys. If you can have Edwards just fill that, I feel like he is extremely valuable to have at least on the training camp roster. And I feel like once you see him on the field, once you see him move in pads, and once you see him run the way that he can, I feel like it's going to be hard to say, nah, we don't need this guy at all.
That's remember the dude from Penn State that showed up for about an hour and a half?
Yeah, John something, right?
John Lovett.
John Lovett.
Yeah. Hope that guy's doing well. One time, I'm not going to give out names, but one time we're hanging out in the locker room. I don't know if you were there with us. Sitting in the locker room. It's like the end of the season, and there's these group of players joking about something, and they're laughing hard. And all I hear come out of somebody's mouth was, yeah, dude, I don't think that dude ever took a snap again. And I was like, what are we talking about? And everybody's like, dude, remember that running back that Mark Robb and then E-Rob absolutely killed like 10 minutes after he showed up? I was like, oh, yeah, dude, that guy, I don't think he ever made it back on the field. They're like, yeah, dude, we never saw him again. Like, he left and we never saw him again. I was like, nice. That John Lovett, man, he was one of many. And I'll say this, fans were pumped about this. Like, anybody who watched Penn State football was like, dude, John Lovett, he was a stud at Penn State. Like, that's a guy that could come in here. Lasted about, no lie, 30 minutes. 30 minutes max before he went back to back. Mike Tomlin was like, John, you're going up against Mark Robinson. Mark smoked him. This was backs on backers. And then the very next rep, he's like, you're staying here. E-Rob, you're up. And I was like, are you doing this on purpose? You just flew this guy in to be a punching bag? This is just mean. Lasted 30 minutes max.
Yeah, you could have put a tackling dummy up, and that would have been just as I don't know. You didn't need to put a human being, a body in the way of those two guys just to beat him up a little bit.
No, it was bad. I felt terrible. He literally never showed up. You never saw him again. I saw him one time jogging on the sideline, and I was like, oh, John Lovett, he made it back, huh? Never. Then he was gone. As soon as I get rid of him, he was gone. Edwards is a good one. Interesting name. I think that, I love what they brought in Edwards. I agree with you. I think that if you go to Georgia and you play running back, you got a ton of potential. And if you score as many touchdowns as he scored his senior year, you got a ton of potential. Plus, he's a brick. So if you're gonna bring in a power back, I like that, especially later in the roster, somebody who could develop. I think that's a good name to watch. I think the obvious one is Beanie Bishop, and I think we have to mention Beanie Bishop. I think he's a guy that, like, if I had to take a shot, he's probably in my 53-man roster throughout the summer unless we show up at rookie minicamp and he's terrible, but I have a hard time thinking that's going to happen. All-American at West Virginia, absolute stud, dude that we did not think wasn't going to get drafted, was very surprised that he didn't get drafted. I think Beanie Bishop is a name that everybody's going to mention, is going to be the easy one. To give you a bit of a curveball here, a guy that I think has a really good shot of making the 53-man roster is John Rice Plumlee, quarterback, UCF, dude who's super athletic, who could come in here. I'm not totally sold. Kyle Allen is a guy that's going to make this 53-man roster. I think they like that they brought him in, but I don't know. You brought Plumlee in to see what you could do with him, and you need young backup quarterbacks for the future, and Plumlee might have the potential to be that, and I think that they could keep him around. He's got a strong arm. He's super athletic. If you could get this guy to, I don't know, at least be capable of showing that he could develop into something, I think it's much easier to keep him around and then toss a name like Kyle Allen on the practice squad or something and work that way.
Yeah, I like Plumlee a lot too. I think he's the same, kind of caliber of athlete as Fields or kind of on the same level generally as Fields or Russell Wilson. I feel like he's going to end up fitting, I think, a little bit better into what the Steelers want to do than a Kyle Allen would. I think even, Allen is, if the season started tomorrow and, Russell Wilson and Justin Fields drop dead for some reason, you're going to start Kyle Allen. But I think as the season progresses, if you see that, Plumlee can kind of mentally catch up to the NFL level, if he can pick up the offense really well, he has a real chance to be a guy who can be your third quarterback, your emergency quarterback on game days. I like Plumlee a lot. That's saying at the top of the show, he was electric in college,
yes,
a really fun player to watch. So I think there's a ton of potential there that could be really, really intriguing for the Steelers as they kind of search for that third option, that third guy.
Yeah, and I don't think Plumlee makes the 53-man roster. For some reason, Russ and Justin can't play, and it's like an extended period of time. I got a hard time. Kyle Allen, maybe that's the direction that you're going to go, but I have a hard time believing that they don't call the name like Ryan Tannehill or whoever, off the streets and say, come play quarterback. We need you for 6 weeks. Arthur Smith's offense. Come make it work. And they make it work. I have a hard time believing that they'd throw away a potentially successful season to be like, yeah, this is our guy. Kyle Allen's our starter. And I think Plumlee's the same way. I don't think that third quarterback on the Steelers 53-man roster means anything outside of who has the most potential to grow, who's going to be the best practice quarterback. I think Plumlee fits that, especially in the AFC North. If you need a guy to replicate Deshaun Watson and Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow, Plumlee could do it all. So I think that's the name that makes the most sense for them. And I think he's got a real shot of making the 53-man roster if he's not terrible. If you're absolutely terrible, which was, right. Chris Oladokun, people want to talk about he never got an opportunity. Chris Oladokun was terrible. In his limited reps, that guy did very little to impress.
In all 7 throws he got or whatever, I don't know.
None of them were
still
good.
Haven't seen the best of Chris Oladokun, mark my words.
Hey,
okay,
two-time Super Bowl champion right there.
That's right. Yeah.
2-time Super Bowl champion. Look at if that's what happens with Plumlee and he turns into 2-time Super Bowl champion elsewhere, I'm gonna respect him. But I think we gotta need to see a little bit more. I wasn't stunned that Chris Oladokun didn't beat out Mason Rudolph. I might have different thoughts with John Rice Plumlee, and he also spells his name pretty crazy because you think Rice is spelled Rice? No. Rhys. Rice.
0 vowels. I mean, unless you can count Y, but
unless you count Y, but that's that's like picking how you spell gray. Yeah. There's no right answer.